This woman named Kingju felt jealous just seeing her friend Jenwon and her husband being affectionate. So that very night, she asked Jenwon's husband Yunhoon out to express her feelings. Faced with Kingju's confession, Yunhoon decisively rejected her. Unwilling to accept defeat, Kingju went home and started texting Yunhoon incessantly. After being rejected again, she flew into a rage, fearing his wife would be hurt. Yunhoon kept the incident secret. Unbeknownst to him, Kingju immediately invited Jenwon out that very night. She lied, claiming the man she liked was being persistently pursued by another woman. Unaware of the truth, Jenwon encouraged Kingju not to give up. Kingju promptly called Yunhoon, yet Yunhoon rejected her call. Fuming, Kingju returned to the fried chicken shop, only to overhear Jenwon and Yunhoon affectionately chatting on the phone. Upon learning Yunhoon was on his way to meet Jenwon, Kingju immediately dashed out and intercepted him. She demanded to know why he hadn't answered her calls. Faced with Kingju's persistence, Yunhoon had no desire to engage with her. However, their heated argument was witnessed by Yunhoon's mother, Mi-sun. Upon hearing Kingju demand Yunhoon divorce his wife, Mi-sun was utterly shocked. Just then, Jenwon suddenly ran up from a distance. Seeing this, Mi-sun hurried forward to intervene. She couldn't let her daughter-in-law witness this scene under any circumstances. After returning home, Yunhoon was deeply troubled. She didn't want Jenwon to get hurt. The next day, Mi-sun intended to visit the company to inquire about her son's affairs from the previous night. Unexpectedly, she encountered Kingju. Mi-sun immediately reprimanded Kingju, yet Kingju directly addressed her as mom and handed over her business card. She introduced herself as the company's team leader. Her father was the company's executive director, and the company's chairman was her aunt. Kingju stated she could provide Yunhoon with significant assistance. Mi-sun felt somewhat tempted after hearing this to reduce Yunhoon's alone time with Jenwon. Kingju intercepted Yunhoon as he was delivering lunch to Jenwon. Before Yunhoon could react, she snatched the lunch from his hands and went straight to Jenwon. Jenwon, however, remained completely unaware of this. Meanwhile, Kingju sent expensive gifts to curry favor with Mi-sun, which delighted Mi-sun immensely. Later, Kingju told Jenwon that the groom's mother was very fond of her. Jenwon was genuinely happy for her. Mi-sun examined the high-end coat Kingju gave her repeatedly. She believed her elegance deserved only the finest garments. Hearing Jenwon knocking outside, Mi-sun quickly hid the coat. Jenwon brought a dress she made herself for her mother-in-law to try on, but Mi-sun couldn't stand the sight of such cheap clothing. Her contempt for the impoverished Jenwon grew. After sending Jenwon away, Mi-sun hurriedly retrieved the expensive coat from under the bed. Her heart aching, she fantasized about Kingju becoming her daughter-in-law and bringing her a life of luxury. The next day, upon seeing the couple's photo in Yunhoon's office, Kingju slammed it down on the desk in anger. Then Jenwon's adoptive mother fell ill and called Yunhoon. Kingju saw this, quickly silenced Yunhoon's phone, hid it behind her back, and snatched it away. That night, Jenwon tearfully explained his adoptive mother needed a liver transplant. Yunhoon felt guilty for missing the call due to his lost phone. He reassured Jenwon that he would get tested for compatibility the next day and could advance the surgery costs from the company. This deeply moved Jenwon. The next day, Kingju distributed phones to employees under the guise of a company perk. When Yunhoon returned home, Jenwon noticed how well her husband's phone number matched Kingju's. Yunhoon instantly realized why his phone had gone missing. He first handed his mother-in-law's phone to Jenwon. Just as the two were preparing to deliver the money together to his foster mother's home, Kingju called Yunhoon. Claiming an emergency, she demanded he return to the company. However, when Yunhoon rushed to the office, he discovered Kingju merely wanted to go on a date with him. As he tried to leave immediately, Kingju grabbed his arm. Furious, Yunhoon tossed the phone back at her and stormed off. Seeing this, Kingju angrily smashed a wine glass. While Yunhoon and Jenwon were away from home, Mi-sun stole the money Jenwon's foster mother Kim-soon had saved for surgery to fund her own investment project. Returning home to discover the money missing, Jenwon panicked. She went to her foster mother's fried chicken shop and told her sister Jenwo about it. However, upon seeing Kingju, Jenwo couldn't hold back and blurted out that Mi-sun had stolen the money Yunhoon borrowed. After hearing this, Kingju pretended to comfort Jenwon before quickly texting Mi-sun to arrange a meeting. Kingju revealed to Mi-sun that Yunhoon had taken out a loan to pay for his mother-in-law's medical treatment. After hearing this, Mi-sun no longer felt guilty about taking Jenwon's money. She angrily warned Jenwon never to ask her son for money again and told Jenwon she had already spent all of it. Jenwon dared not tell her husband about this, just as she agonized over her foster mother's surgery costs. A turning point emerged. Jenwon's fate was about to change. Because company chairman Yusin had focused solely on selling clothes in her youth, she ended up losing her only daughter. Ever since, Yusin had been consumed by deep self-blame. All these years, she never gave up searching for her biological daughter. Currently, only her adopted daughter Seung-hee managed the company. The reason Yusin couldn't find her biological daughter all these years was actually due to Seung-hee's interference. Seeing Yusin fall ill from years of longing for her daughter, she planned to let Seung-hee take full control of the company. Her brother Wang-gu, who is also King-ju's father, grew anxious. Knowing Seung-hee's ambition, he strongly opposed the idea. Wang-gu instructed his subordinates to use childhood photos of his niece Yoon-hee to project what she might look like at 30 and 50. He planned to find a young woman resembling Yoon-hee to pose as her descendant. Delaying his sister's handover of the company to Seung-hee, he would use this time to intensify the search for his real niece, Yoon-hee. However, the projected image of Yoon-hee at 30 bore a striking resemblance to Jang-won. Coincidentally, that day Jang-won encountered a lecherous customer at the company. After subduing him, she immediately fled. Panicked, she ran into Wang-gu's office and hid. Wang-gu was shocked upon seeing Jang-won, realizing how strikingly similar she looked to his grandniece. Meanwhile, King-ju, determined to get Young-hoon, she deliberately photographed Young-hoon delivering takeout, and promptly sent the photo to Mi-sun. Upon learning this, Mi-sun was furious. She confronted Jang-won, unleashing a torrent of accusations. Still seething, Mi-sun then stormed into the fried chicken shop and berated Jang-won again. Young-hoon hurriedly pulled his mother away. Growing increasingly dissatisfied with Jang-won, Mi-sun conspired with King-ju to break up her son and daughter-in-law's marriage. She invited Young-hoon out for a private dinner. King-ju then staged a chance encounter with them. Mi-sun pretended to meet King-ju for the first time, inviting her to join their meal to bring the two together. She then pretended to have an urgent matter, leaving them alone. However, Young-hoon had no interest in King-ju and was about to leave. Even as King-ju repeatedly tried to keep him there, Young-hoon insisted on leaving. At that moment, a man on a blind date at the next table began mocking his date because her photo didn't match her appearance. In response, the woman splashed a glass of water directly onto King-ju. The unfortunate King-ju arrived at the fried chicken shop intending to confront Jang-won. Instead, she witnessed Young-hoon and Jang-won celebrating their wedding anniversary. Young-hoon presented Jang-won with a beautiful ring. The couple appeared deeply affectionate. Young-hoon, catching sight of King-ju by chance, grew visibly displeased. Furious, King-ju stormed out of the fried chicken shop. She then deliberately called Jang-won, pretending to be injured to distract her. By the time Jang-won returned, King-ju had already gotten her completely drunk. Their wedding anniversary was thus ruined by King-ju. Seeing Jang-won so kind-hearted, Young-hoon simply couldn't bring himself to tell her the truth. Early the next morning, Jang-won prepared a hangover soup for King-ju. Yet King-ju's eyes were fixed on the ring Jang-won had received the day before. She demanded it, wanting to wear it herself. Once the ring was on her finger, King-ju began fantasizing about being with Young-hoon. Only when Jang-won reminded her did she reluctantly return it. Then, in a fit of rage, she tossed the hangover soup Jang-won had given her into the trash. King-ju called Mi-sun to tell her there was a credit card in the bag she'd given her last time. She told her to spend freely. Mi-sun was overjoyed upon hearing this. She couldn't wait for her son to divorce Jang-won and marry King-ju. Just as she was leaving, Jang-won entered and discovered the credit card on the bed. She was intrigued. Mi-sun snatched it away, lying that it was just a fake card. Jang-won, hearing it was fake, immediately tossed it into the trash. This pained Mi-sun deeply. Meanwhile, King-ju suggested to her aunt, the chairman, that she personally invite employees to their home. Young-hoon, who received the invitation, assumed the chairman recognized his talent. Only upon meeting did he learn of King-ju's relationship with the chairwoman. King-ju's purpose in inviting Young-hoon was to showcase her family background and make him submit to her. Young-hoon angrily declared he didn't need such connections. Just as they were about to part on bad terms, the chairwoman received news that her daughter Yoon-hee had been found. She rushed to the nursing home to meet her. Little did she know Seung-hee and Wang-gu deliberately stalled for time. By the time Yusin entered, the real Yoon-hee had been swapped by the nurses. Yusin knew his daughter had extensive burns on her arm. Seeing only a small scar on the woman before him, he was instantly disheartened. Meanwhile, the real Yoon-hee, now suffering from mental issues, was hidden away by Seung-hee's people. The next day, the company, Young-hoon received another luxury watch from King-ju. Furious and feeling humiliated, he immediately returned it and warned King-ju never to do such a thing again. King-ju assumed Young-hoon disdained the watch as cheap, so he ordered his subordinate to drive a luxury car to the company. After Young-hoon finished work, he was taken to the garage and handed him the keys. Young-hoon just wanted to get rid of King-ju quickly, but Mi-sun, whose credit card had been thrown away by Jang-won, shamelessly brought it up with King-ju. King-ju reassured her, saying he could just get a new one reissued. The two chatted pleasantly. Mi-sun proactively suggested ways to break up her son and Jang-won. These words were overheard by Young-hoon, who had come to return the keys. Furious, he stormed in and interrupted them. Meanwhile, Meanwhile, Jenwon's adoptive mother suddenly fell unconscious and was rushed to the hospital. This scene was witnessed by Wangu. At the hospital, Jenwon was fretting over the cost of her adoptive mother's surgery. Wangu approached, offering to cover the surgery costs if Jenwon accepted his proposal. After much deliberation, Jenwon decided saving his adoptive mother was the priority. Wangu presented the contract, stipulating the arrangement to impersonate the chairman's granddaughter must remain confidential. He then handed Jenwon the prepared funds to reach an agreement. Learning Wangu was searching for the chairman's granddaughter made Seung-hee uneasy. She and her husband Moon-ho staged a heart-rending scene to pressure the chairman into drafting his will. The soft-hearted chairman invited Moon-ho to stay for a discussion over dinner. Determined to secure Seung-hee's future, she resolved to make the will. This news alarmed Wangu. He grabbed Jenwon, insisting they drive home to see the chairman immediately. Just as everyone awaited the will's announcement, Wangu pulled Jenwon inside, declaring her the chairman's granddaughter. Moon-ho, witnessing this, lied that Yoon-hee had passed away and couldn't possibly have a daughter. Hearing this, the chairman fainted on the spot. Seung-hee scolded Wangu, accusing him of bringing a fake granddaughter to provoke the chairman. Wangu, refusing to accept this, dragged Jenwon to a private spot and ordered her to continue pretending to be the chairman's granddaughter. When the chairman awoke and saw Jenwon, he remarked that she looked exactly like his daughter Yoon-hee when she was young. Seeing the chairman's grief, Jenwon felt inexplicably distressed herself. Even though Seung-hee knew Jenwon was an imposter, she still panicked upon witnessing this scene. Meanwhile, the daughter the chairman had longed to find was locked away in a nursing home by Seung-hee. Seung-hee had deceived the chairman into believing Yoon-hee had passed away. The chairman believed her. That evening, witnessed by everyone, the chairman underwent a paternity test with Jenwon. Now they just had to wait for the results. Soon, the day of the paternity test results arrived. Wangu planned to send subordinates to swap the test results, but soon he beat him to it. Wangu thought Jenwon's deception, as his granddaughter would be exposed. Soon he saw the results showing Jenwon and the chairman were indeed biologically related. Wangu snatched the report and showed it to the chairman. Yusin couldn't believe Yoon-hee truly had another daughter. Jenwon felt extremely guilty at that moment. Soon he angrily snatched the report back, accusing Wangu of swapping the results. The two argued incessantly. The chairman impatiently told them both to leave, stating he needed to speak privately with Jenwon. Fearing exposure, Wangu made excuses to pull Jenwon outside. King Ju assumed one of his subordinates had switched the paternity test. Wangu, believing his daughter was responsible, was quite pleased. The chairman instructed Wangu to contact Jenwon and arrange a meeting. Seung-hee, alerted, resolved to stop this at all costs. He invited the chairman and Wangu to a meeting under the pretense of an urgent conference. After luring them both to the conference room, Seung-hee intercepted Jenwon arriving at the company. He advised her to stop pretending to be the chairman's granddaughter. Fortunately, Wangu discovered this in time, rushing in to take Jenwon away. But Seung-hee wouldn't give up. She went to the fried chicken shop to observe secretly. Seeing this, Jenwoo secretly called Jenwon. Their conversation was overheard by Seung-hee's subordinate. She confirmed that Jenwon was the imposter Wangu had brought in. Learning this, Seung-hee finally breathed a sigh of relief. Back home, she proposed hosting Jenwon's family. Wangu stalled by claiming Jenwon's mother needed medical care. Seung-hee took advantage of Wangu's absence from the office. She found a locksmith to secretly open his safe and discovered the contract agreement between Wangu and Jenwon. Just as Seung-hee was celebrating finding the evidence, the chairman happened to witness her improper actions and became furious. She ordered he to leave immediately. The chairman then picked up the agreement, intending to return it. But Wangu, just returning, witnessed this scene and immediately knelt down, confessing his actions. Only after reviewing the contract did the chairman uncover the entire truth. Meanwhile, Jenwon felt she shouldn't deceive the chairman, so she visited Yoon-hee with flowers. Her sincere apology was overheard by the chairman, who had just come to see his daughter. The chairman silently left. The next day, to punish Wangu, he decided to transfer all the shares intended for Wangu in his will to Seung-hee instead. The chairman then sought out Seung-hee to inform her of his decision. He did not, however, tell her that he knew Jenwon was the fake granddaughter. Unaware of this, Jenwon felt a constant unease in her heart. She wrote an apology letter to the chairman. Looking at Yoon-hee's childhood photos, the chairman wept. He sensed the sincerity in Jenwon's apology and personally came to speak with her. Seung-hee and her husband couldn't understand why the chairman suddenly gave Wangu's shares to her. Feeling uneasy, Seung-hee decided to expose Jenwon as the fake granddaughter. She suggested to Wangu that they host Jenwon, then went directly to pick Jenwon up herself. However, as soon as she stepped out, she realized she'd forgotten something. Returning to her room, Seung-hee overheard Wangu and King Ju discussing the chairman's knowledge of Jenwon's deception. This filled Seung-hee with fury. She was dissatisfied with the shares the chairman had given her. She vowed to protect her position. The next day, Wangu secretly entered Seung-hee's office to find her weaknesses, but soon, the secretary outside informed him that Seung-hee was approaching. Panicking, Wangu hid under the desk. There, He overheard the secret that Yoonhee was still alive. Wengu ordered the secretary to immediately contact the intelligence agency to investigate. Meanwhile, to sabotage Jangwon and Younghoon's relationship, King-ju deliberately had Mi-sun leave a lipstick mark on Younghoon's shirt. Yet when Jangwon saw the mark, she didn't suspect her husband at all. Soon, King-ju's birthday arrived. She assumed Younghoon would attend the company party to celebrate her birthday. Little did she know that after setting up the venue with colleagues, Younghoon had gone home to spend time with Jangwon. When King-ju arrived at the birthday party and found Younghoon absent, she grew suspicious. Upon hearing from a colleague that Younghoon had gone home to be with his wife, she flew into a rage and rushed out after him. King-ju stopped Younghoon, pleading for him to celebrate her birthday with her. Unexpectedly, Wengu witnessed King-ju clinging to Younghoon. He finally realized the man his daughter liked was Jangwon's husband. Unwilling to accept this, King-ju contacted Mi-sun again. She had Mi-sun call Jangwon to the hotel where Younghoon was staying on business. She then rushed to Younghoon's hotel, intending to force herself on him, only to be sternly rejected by Younghoon. Outside, King-ju's secretary and Jangwon arrived at the hotel simultaneously. Hearing the commotion inside, Jangwon mistakenly believed the secretary was harassing Younghoon. Younghoon immediately storms out in anger. After Younghoon leaves, Jangwon gathers her courage and knocks on the door. She warns the person inside to stay away from her husband. King-ju is now terrifying and trembling. The next day, Younghoon hands his resignation letter to King-ju, but as soon as he stepped out, he was stopped by Seung-hee's subordinate. Seung-hee wanted to recruit Younghoon to work for her. Meanwhile, Jangwon was accompanying her adoptive mother to the hospital for a checkup. While waiting for her mother, Jangwon also underwent tests and discovered she was pregnant. Younghoon rushed over and was overjoyed upon hearing the news. This news made King-ju, who had rushed to the hospital, intensely jealous. Back home, she convinced herself she must have misheard. Frantically, she called Mi-sun to confirm. Mi-sun had already learned of Jangwon's pregnancy. She urged King-ju one last time to give up. Upon hearing about Jangwon's pregnancy, the chairman arranged for Wengu and driver Ji-wen to select baby items for her. While shopping, Wengu suggested they take a group photo to report back to the chairman. At that moment, King-ju was seething with resentment over Jangwon's pregnancy. Suddenly, she received the group photo her father had sent her. This instantly sparked a scheme in King-ju's mind. She secretly cropped a photo of Jangwon and the driver together. Then she used the photo to deceive Mi-sun, claiming Jangwon wasn't carrying her grandchild. Mi-sun immediately began monitoring Jangwon's whereabouts. Upon seeing Jangwon with a man, she concluded they were having an affair. No matter how Jangwon explained, her mother-in-law refused to listen. Returning home, Mi-sun told Younghoon she suspected Jangwon wasn't carrying her grandchild. Younghoon urged his mother not to believe rumors. Then he pulled Jangwon away. Mi-sun also began to harbor doubts. Later, Jangwon patiently explained to her mother-in-law, sharing everything she had encountered recently. The misunderstanding between them was finally resolved. Recalling how King-ju had deliberately slandered her daughter-in-law, she angrily summoned King-ju to her home and exposed her. She then informed King-ju that their partnership was completely over. Just as King-ju was frantically trying to escape after being kicked out, she spotted Younghoon returning and quickly hid. By chance, she overheard Younghoon secretly undergoing a liver compatibility test to save his mother-in-law, and that the hospital had notified him of a successful match. After receiving the call, Younghoon rushed straight to the fried chicken shop to share the good news with Jangwon. King-ju hurriedly rang the doorbell to tell Mi-sun about it. Just as Younghoon was about to tell Jangwon about his successful match, Mi-sun burst in, demanding answers. She believed Jangwon had pressured Younghoon into donating his liver. Thus, the newly reconciled couple found themselves at odds once more. Back home, Mi-sun threw Jangwon's luggage out, demanding she leave the house. After kicking Jangwon out, Mi-sun even blocked her son from leaving his room. She spent all day guarding the doorway, terrified Younghoon would go donate his liver to Jangwon's adoptive mother. Exhausted, she eventually passed out from fatigue. King-ju lured Jangwon out to extract information from her. She secretly recorded everything Jangwon said on her phone. King-ju then maliciously edited and twisted Jangwon's words. King-ju then suggested to Mi-sun that if Younghoon and Jangwon divorced, Younghoon wouldn't need to donate his liver to Jangwon's adoptive mother. She even prepared the divorce papers. Mi-sun immediately pulled Jangwon aside and made her sign the divorce agreement. This left Jangwon utterly bewildered. Mi-sun then informed Kim-soon of the situation. Upon hearing this, Kim-soon burst into tears and immediately decided to refuse the liver transplant surgery. Jangwon was heartbroken when she learned of this. She believed her mother-in-law shouldn't have persuaded her adoptive mother to give up the chance for surgery. As they argued, a A scalding hot iron fell from the table. Jae-won risked her own safety to shield her mother-in-law from the ire. Mi-sun felt deeply guilty about this. She contacted Jae-won at the hospital, fearing her mother-in-law's worry. Jae-won lied that she was fine. Just then, a nurse approached to discuss the severity of her injuries and necessary precautions. Hearing this, Mi-sun felt even more remorseful. Kim-ju secretly followed Yeon-hoon and discovered Jae-won pleading with Yeon-hoon to donate a liver to his mother. She immediately relayed this information to Mi-sun. When Yeon-hoon returned home, Mi-sun reproached him for being unfilial, but she suddenly came to understand and agreed to let Yeon-hoon help Jae-won's adoptive mother. After Jae-won returned, Mi-sun even checked her wound and applied medicine. At the hospital, Kim-soon wanted to see Jae-won's biological mother before the surgery. She urged Jae-won to search for her biological mother. Yoon-hee, who had given birth to Jae-won years ago, saw the chairman's missing person notice and decided to search for her family. She entrusted Jae-won to Kim-soon and went to Seoul, but she never returned. It turned out Yoon-hee had been intercepted by Soon-hee while searching for her birth mother and confined to a sanatorium. Back then, she had gone to Seoul carrying this very missing person's notice. Jae-won noticed a phone number on it and dialed it, but no one answered at the chairman's end. Meanwhile, Kim-ju, furious that Mi-sun wouldn't help her, stormed into her house. She raged that Yeon-hoon shouldn't ignore her like this. Unwilling to accept defeat, Kim-ju sought out Jae-won again to pry information from her. Upon learning Jae-won was heading to an abandoned warehouse to search for clues about her birth mother, Kim-ju resolved to teach Jae-won a lesson. When Jae-won stepped out of the warehouse to rest, Kim-ju sneaked inside and took Jae-won's phone. When Jae-won returned to continue her search, Kim-ju seized the chance to lock the warehouse door from the outside. She then contacted Yeon-hoon, falsely claiming her car had broken down and asking him to pick her up. However, Yeon-hoon firmly refused. Just then, Yeon-hoon called Jae-won. Kim-ju impersonated Jae-won, sending Yeon-hoon an address and telling him to come find her. She also claimed her leg was injured. Hearing this, Yeon-hoon rushed to the scene. Only upon arrival did Yeon-hoon realize he'd been deceived. Now, his sole focus was finding Jae-won. Seeing this, Kim-ju was furious. Back at the warehouse, since Ji-won had also visited earlier that day and left his watch behind, he returned to retrieve it. Ultimately, with his help, Jae-won managed to escape. When Yeon-hoon arrived at the warehouse, he was told Jae-won had already returned home. After this incident, Yeon-hoon began accompanying Jae-won in searching for clues about his birth mother. The two found an elderly security guard who had once worked at the chairman's company. The old man didn't want to get involved. Seeing the missing person flyer from years ago, he tried to shoo them away, until one day, his grandson went missing and was found by Jae-won. Moved by this, the old man finally contacted Yeon-hoon. Yeon-hoon visited the old man alone to learn the details. It turned out the old man had personally witnessed Yoon-hee come searching for her family, only to fall unconscious on the steps. Soon-hee, having seen this, paid him hush money. After hearing this, Yeon-hoon decided to investigate the matter himself before telling Jae-won, so he secretly followed Soon-hee's husband to the nursing home. After observing discreetly, Yeon-hoon suspected the person in the room was Jae-won's mother. To confirm his hunch, Yeon-hoon disguised himself as a nursing home doctor making rounds. He saw the pendant around Yoon-hee's neck match Jae-won's. This further solidified his belief in Yoon-hee's identity. Yeon-hoon pulled Yoon-hee into the adjacent war. He pulled out a childhood photo of Jae-won for Yoon-hee to see. Unexpectedly, the deranged Yoon-hee recognized her daughter. Meanwhile, Moon-ho, furious upon learning Yoon-hee had gone missing, was overheard by the chairman during his call. The chairman demanded to know where he had hidden Yoon-hee. Moon-ho immediately implicated Soon-hee. Overwhelmed by the revelation, the chairman fainted. Yeon-hoon set out with Yoon-hee to find Jae-won. He vowed to expose Moon-ho and Soon-hee's crimes and make them pay. But halfway there, his car broke down. Yeon-hoon instructed Yoon-hee to stay put and wait for him. He then walked ahead to look for a repair shop. Meanwhile, Soon-hee, who had received the news, was also searching for Yoon-hee on the same road. By chance, she spotted Yoon-hee inside Yeon-hoon's car. Soon-hee seized the opportunity to drag Yoon-hee into her own vehicle and sped away. Inside the car, Yoon-hee kept pounding on Soon-hee, distracting her enough to crash into Yeon-hoon as he returned. Shaking violently, Soon-hee got out to check. Yoon-hee seized the chance to run across the street. Meanwhile, Ji-wan, sent by the chairman to find his daughter, swerved to avoid Yoon-hee. He slammed the steering wheel and crashed into a utility pole. The car finally came to a halt beside Yeon-hoon. Seeing Ji-wan unconscious, Soon-hee froze in terror. Moon-ho, who arrived quickly, checked the dashcam footage. Seeing it only recorded Ji-wan's car and not Soon-hee, he comforted Soon-hee and decided to frame Ji-wan for the accident. Meanwhile, Soon-hee sued both Wang-gu and Jae-won, citing their past collusion to impersonate the chairman's granddaughter. Kim-ju, seeking to rescue her father while eliminating Jae-won, proposed a plan to have her father pin all responsibility for the incident on Jae-won. Kim-ju then approached Moon-ho with a deal to conspire in framing Jae-won and Ji-wan for an illicit relationship. Since Jae-won hadn't been forced formally convicted and remained free. She suspected Wang-gu was framing her. She recalled the contract she signed with Wang-gu. King-ju overheard Zhenwan's conversation with her sister. She urgently ordered Wang-gu to infiltrate Zhenwan's home and steal the contract. Meanwhile, she detained Zhenwan downstairs to buy time. Only after seeing Wang-gu succeed did King-ju release her. When Zhenwan returned home, the contract was naturally gone. Clinging to a sliver of hope, Zhenwan went to the chairman's residence seeking Wang-gu. The unsuspecting housekeeper let her in. Zhenwan suddenly recalled Wang-gu must have another copy of the contract. Sneaking into the office, she indeed found Wang-gu's copy. But just as she prepared to leave, Wang-gu, remembering the other contract, burst through the door. Zhenwan hid behind the door, planning to slip away. But Wang-gu spotted her. In the end, Zhenwan couldn't escape. Just as Zhenwan was at her lowest point, she received news that Yunhoon was dying. Yunhoon desperately wanted to tell Zhenwan the truth, but he died before he could speak. King-ju stared at Yunhoon's portrait, recalling her scheme to torment Zhenwan. She then approached Mi-sun, falsely accusing Zhenwan of an illicit relationship with Ji-wan, and deliberately causing Yunhoon's death. Enraged by this, Mi-sun stormed to the funeral and lashed out at the pregnant Zhenwan with blows and insults. King-ju watched with satisfaction. She called Moon-ho, instructing him to proceed with the plan. Zhenwan was then formally arrested on fraud charges. When police questioned Mi-sun about whether Zhenwan had an improper relationship with Ji-wan and had purchased insurance for Yunhoon, Mi-sun recalled that she herself had bought the insurance for Yunhoon. But after King-ju's relentless scheming, Mi-sun lied to the police, claiming Zhenwan had purchased the policy. She was determined to punish Zhenwan for harming her son. Meanwhile, Attorney Kim, who visited Zhenwan in detention to gather information, appeared to be sent by King-ju to assist her. In reality, Attorney Kim was King-ju's pawn to send Zhenwan to prison. Meanwhile, Ji-wan's mother Jin-soo overheard Moon-ho and King-ju plotting in the garage. She intended to warn Moon-ho not to harm Ji-wan. It turned out Jin-soo was Moon-ho's first love. Ji-wan was actually Moon-ho's son, but before she could speak, Jin-soo collapsed in agony. Moon-ho dismissed it as feigned illness and ignored her. While Ji-wan was defending himself at the police station, he received news of his mother's death. Jin-soo had passed away after failing to get timely medical attention. After holding his mother's funeral, Ji-wan lost all will to fight the frame up against him. Police suspected both Ji-wan's car accident and Zhenwan's fraud charges were conspiracies orchestrated by the two to frame Yunhoon. Thus, their cases were merged into one. In court, Wang-gu followed King-ju's instructions and shifted all blame for impersonating the chairman's granddaughter onto Zhenwan. Mi-sun, also manipulated by King-ju, testified as a witness that Zhenwan and Ji-wan had an improper relationship. Meanwhile, Ji-wan's lawyer had been bribed by Moon-ho. He exploited Ji-wan's grief over her mother's death, claiming she had confessed to everything. Thus, both Zhenwan and Ji-wan were sentenced to 4 years in prison. Upon entering prison, Zhenwan was immediately bullied by fellow inmates. Amid the commotion, Mi-king, the prison's leader, stirred awake. Zhenwan was stunned to discover the man bore an uncanny resemblance to the chairman. Meanwhile, King-ju sought out Attorney Kim to prevent Zhenwan from appealing. Attorney Kim assured her he was already stalling for time and told her to be patient. But Zhenwan turned to her sister for help. Upon hearing this, King-ju rushed to find Zhengwu to reassure her. She told her to trust her and leave Zhenwan's case entirely in her hands. Yet when she stepped out to call Attorney Kim, Kim soon overheard her scheming to frame Zhenwan. Furious, she lunged at King-ju, refusing to let go. As they struggled, King-ju shoved Kim-soon onto the road. When she turned back, Kim-soon had been struck by a car and was dead. To her horror, this scene was witnessed by Soon-hee's son, Soo-hoo. King-ju pulled him aside and warned him to forget everything. Soon after, Zhenwan learned her adoptive mother had died in the accident. The prison had initially permitted Zhenwan to visit her adoptive mother one last time, but through King-ju's manipulation, she was informed the visitation had been cancelled. Now several fellow inmates realized Zhenwan had been framed. Mi-king confided that Zhenwan had been framed for her imprisonment, but Zhenwan, still reeling from her mother's death, couldn't bear to hear it. Just then, Zhenwan spotted a female inmate preparing to stab Mi-king. She threw herself in to save Mi-king. Mi-king resolved to help clear Zhenwan's name once she was released. Soon, the day of Zhenwan's delivery approached. King-ju deliberately arranged for an inmate to bully Zhenwan. Mi-king, witnessing the abuse, resolved to confront the bully. Just then, the bully arrived. A fight erupted between them. Shortly after, Zhenwan suddenly went into labor. Meanwhile, Ji-wan, having recovered over the past year, regained her spirit. She analyzed her own case and Zhenwan's. 4 years later, Soon-hee, who had been hiding abroad, returned to Korea. Meanwhile, Zhenwan's release date arrived. She resolved to target her mother-in-law and Wang-gu first for their perjury. Mi-king disguised herself as the chairman. They infiltrated Wang-gu's office to extract information, but before they could get anything out of him, Wang-gu saw his sister who should have been in a coma standing before him, and fainted on the spot. When Wang-gu regained consciousness, he knelt before the chairman and confessed his wrongdoing, claiming it was all for his daughter. Mi-king and Zhenwan couldn't fathom why he would harm her. To uncover the truth, they must investigate Wangu's daughter's identity. Wangu felt utterly incredulous. King Ju brought her father home only to find the chairman still unconscious. She believed her father might have mistaken someone else. That day, Gen-1 intended to visit Mi-sun for questions. Instead, she saw Mi-sun rushing out. She followed Mi-sun all the way to King Ju's company. Gen-1 overheard Mi-sun and King Ju's collusive conversation. Only then did Gen-1 realize all of Mi-sun's actions had been orchestrated by King Ju. She vowed to exact revenge on King Ju. The next day, she pretended nothing had happened and sought out King Ju. Seizing the opportunity, she proposed working at King Ju's company and asked for her help. The unsuspecting King Ju readily agreed. Gen-1 then sought out Ji-wan, and the two decided to collaborate to clear their names. First, she approached Mi-sun to sow discord between her and King Ju. She made Mi-sun believe King Ju had used her and then discarded her. Mi-sun then confronted King Ju, armed with a recording device, but instead of obtaining incriminating evidence from King Ju, that was instead framed by King Ju for stealing her credit card. King Ju had security escort her to the police station. Mi-sun ended up detained at the station. King Ju mocked Mi-sun mercilessly. Mi-sun bitterly regretted trusting King Ju. The next day, King Ju arrived at Young-hoon's memorial service to boast about her upcoming engagement. Gen-1 followed her discreetly and learned Mi-sun had been detained. She then found Mi-sun and promised to secure her bail. Deeply moved, Mi-sun immediately revealed she still possessed Young-hoon's phone. It contained all the text messages and recordings of King Ju seducing Young-hoon. Following Mi-sun's directions, Gen-1 located Young-hoon's phone. Watching the suggestive messages King Ju had sent Young-hoon, she seethed with rage. The next day, King Ju held her engagement ceremony. Receiving news of Mi-sun's release threw her into panic. King Ju ordered her subordinates to track Mi-sun's whereabouts. Unbeknownst to her, Gen-1 had brought Mi-sun to lurk at her engagement banquet. Just as King Ju and her fiancé An-rim were about to exchange engagement rings, Mi-sun suddenly burst in and exposed King Ju's past. King Ju desperately insisted it wasn't true, but the evidence that appeared on the screen next left everyone stunned. And so, King Ju's engagement party was completely ruined. The next day, news of King Ju's broken engagement hit the headlines. Colleagues were all discussing the incident. King Ju vowed to teach Mi-sun a lesson. She believed Mi-sun must have someone backing her. Just then, Ji-won approached her, claiming soon he was the one who sabotaged her engagement party. King Ju thought it over and realized it could very well be her. Soon after, An-rin's mother returned the dowry King Ju had given. Then she left decisively. King Ju now only wanted to win An-rin back. Gen-1 also guessed King Ju would stop at nothing to win An-rin back. Sure enough, after King Ju's desperate pleas, An-rim agreed to take her to persuade his mother. Their entire conversation was observed by Gen-1, who had been secretly following them. She seized the moment while King Ju was touching up her makeup, presented evidence revealing the entire truth to An-rim. When King Ju returned, An-rim immediately produced a previously undisclosed recording of King Ju and left her behind decisively. King Ju was overcome with despair at the sight. Gen-1 felt immense satisfaction hearing King Ju's screams. The next day, King Ju sought out her cousin Seung-hee, convinced Seung-hee had sabotaged her marriage. Seung-hee abruptly left for an emergency. This only solidified King Ju's suspicions. She attempted to bribe Mi-sun to expose Seung-hee's schemes, but ultimately failed. Having angered Seung-hee, King Ju was then informed Seung-hee intended to expel her from the company. She stormed into Seung-hee's office, accusing her of sabotaging her engagement party. Only then did Seung-hee realize King Ju had misunderstood her. Gen-1 witnessed King Ju being dragged away and felt compelled to defend her. King Ju remained unaware that Gen-1 had orchestrated the entire scheme. Before leaving the company, she insisted Gen-1 take over her position. Gen-1 solemnly vowed not to betray her trust. That evening, Seung-hee confronted King Ju, explaining it was all a misunderstanding and deducing Gen-1 was behind it. King Ju refused to believe this, but soon she discovers it really was Gen-1's doing. Furious, King Ju confronts Gen-1. Gen-1 admits she sabotaged her engagement ceremony. This infuriates King Ju. Meanwhile, since Mi-sun couldn't afford the rent, Ji-won paid it so Gen-1 and her son could stay. Meanwhile, Seung-hee discovered Ji-won and Gen-1 were actually working together. To drive a wedge between them, Seung-hee summoned Gen-1 and played her a fabricated recording. Gen-1 refused to believe Young-hoon was killed by Ji-wan's car accident. Seung-hee lured her to Ji-wan's therapy session. She then had her subordinate contact Dr. Kim to guide Ji-wan. When Gen-1 arrived at Dr. Kim's office, she overheard Ji-won personally confessing to hitting Young-hoon. After hearing this, Gen-1 composed herself and returned to confront Seung-hee. She told Seung-hee she could help her deal with King Ju. This was precisely Seung-hee's objective. She then publicly announced in front of King Ju that Gen-1 would serve as the project team leader. That evening, Gen-1 informed Mi-king that Ji-won had personally confessed to Young-hoon's death. Mi-king cautioned her against being manipulated by schemers, reminding her that Ji-wan's kindness toward her was evident to all. King Ju grew anxious over Gen-1 and Seung-hee's alliance. He analyzed Seung-hee's vulnerabilities with his father, and they ultimately decided to target Young-hoon's accident and Yoon-hee. At the company, money. Jiwon greeted Jaewon, only to be met with Jaewon's cold stare. Jiwon confronted Jaewon about avoiding her. Jaewon bluntly stated she'd personally heard him admit to killing Young-hoon. She then pulled out an envelope to return the money for their old rental. This scene of their falling out was recorded by Secretary Young, Seung-hee's subordinate. Watching the footage, Seung-hee feels completely reassured about Jaewon. Jiwon opens the envelope to find not money, but a letter. Jaewon reveals her sudden change in attitude was a deliberate act to deceive Seung-hee. It turns out that just yesterday, Jaewon followed Secretary Young back to Dr. Kim's office. She learned that everything had been deliberately orchestrated by Seung-hee. Seung-hee deliberately assigned a program meant for King-ju to Jaewon to oust her. Now King-ju harbors deep hatred towards Seung-hee. One night, she sneaked into Seung-hee's study seeking her weakness. Just then, Seung-hee and Moon-ho entered, hidden behind a wall. King-ju overheard that Seung-hee was the one who hit Young-hoon. She rushed to meet Jiwon. Only then did Jiwon realize Seung-hee and Moon-ho had conspired to frame him. The next day, King-ju went to Seung-hee's office to draw her out. Unexpectedly, Seung-hee admitted she was the one who hit Young-hoon. Knowing King-ju was recording, Seung-hee called King-ju beforehand to interrupt the recording. Triumphantly, Seung-hee warned King-ju she would never be her match. However, their entire conversation was overheard by Jaewon outside the door. She never imagined the person who killed her husband was Seung-hee. Overwhelmed by emotion, she fainted. After Seung-hee left, King-ju removed a camera hidden in a desk ornament. It turned out Jiwon had placed it there as a precaution. King-ju immediately arranged to meet Jiwon in her office. Unbeknownst to her, Jiwon received a call from the hospital right after hanging up. Learning of Jaewon's collapse, King-ju witnessed Jiwon rushing to the hospital. Puzzled, she secretly followed her. Seeing Jiwon at the hospital solely for Jaewon filled her with jealousy. She vowed to take revenge on both Jiwon and Jaewon. Meanwhile, after regaining consciousness, Jaewon resolved to avenge Young-hoon. She gained Seung-hee's trust and accompanied her to the press conference. But during the interview, Jaewon exposed Seung-hee as the murderer who killed her husband and framed Jiwon. Seung-hee abruptly halted the press conference and fled the scene. Jaewon and Jiwon leveraged public opinion to reopen Young-hoon's case. Meanwhile, King-ju confronted Seung-hee with her video footage. Seung-hee demanded what King-ju wanted. King-ju proposed they team up to take down Jaewon. Seung-hee snatched her own recording and agreed immediately. Unbeknownst to her, King-ju had made multiple copies of the footage. That day, Jaewon brought Yejin to visit Jaewon, but Jaewon, dizzy with work, took her son to her office. Just then, King-ju accidentally spilled water on himself and took off his jacket. While playing, Yejin wandered into King-ju's office and accidentally picked up King-ju's backup copy of Seung-hee's video. When King-ju returned and discovered his USB drive missing, he immediately rushed out, suspecting Jaewon had taken it. However, this scene was overheard by Seung-hee. She hadn't expected King-ju to keep a backup. Just as Seung-hee was fretting over not finding Yejin, she spotted him in the elevator. Seung-hee began coaxing Yejin to hand over the USB drive. Sensing she wasn't trustworthy, Yejin seized the chance to dash out of the elevator. Seung-hee chased him all the way to the stairwell. During their struggle, Yejin accidentally tumbled down the stairs. Seung-hee froze in shock. Jaewon heard the commotion and sensed something was terribly wrong. When she arrived, she only saw Yejin lying on the floor and Seung-hee's panicked retreating figure. Jaewon rushed her son to the hospital. Fortunately, he was unharmed. Convinced Seung-hee had pushed Yejin down to get revenge on her, Jaewon stormed into the office to confront Seung-hee. Seung-hee showed no remorse, telling Jaewon to keep her son in line before walking away. Jaewon observed how affectionately Seung-hee treated her son. She resolved to take Soo-hoo away from Seung-hee. In truth, Jaewon and Soo-hoo shared a past connection. A thief was stealing Soo-hoo's wallet at the time. Jaewon intervened, chasing and subduing the thief. Soo-hoo was instantly captivated by Jaewon's bravery. He began visiting the fried chicken shop daily just to be near her. Soo-hoo openly confessed his feelings for Jaewon. Fresh out of prison, Jaewon had no interest in romance. Seeing Yejin lying in bed, she resolved to use Soo-hoo to exact revenge on Seung-hee. Having lost the USB drive, King-ju offered a half-hearted apology to Seung-hee. Seung-hee feared her career would be ruined if the footage was released. King-ju slipped into the hospital unnoticed and tricked Yejin into handing over the USB drive. Yejin lied, claiming she had already given it to her mother. King-ju secretly observed Jaewon at the company. Unbeknownst to her, Jaewon never received the USB drive. When Seung-hee inquired about the USB again, King-ju lied that she had retrieved it from the hospital and destroyed it. Meanwhile, Jaewon quickly accepted Soo-hoo's confession. She asked Soo-hoo to keep their relationship a secret. Jaewon and Soo-hoo soon became deeply involved. Their conversation was witnessed by Seung-hee. Seung-hee sneered that someone like Jaewon could actually be loved. Unbeknownst to her, Jaewon's boyfriend was her own son. Meanwhile, Jaewon learned from her son that Seung-hee was after the USB drive he possessed. She suspected the USB must contain something that terrified Seung-hee. The next day, she invited colleagues over for a gathering. King Ju, who also coveted the USB, deliberately had Secretary Zheng spill water to soak her clothes. She then used the excuse of changing clothes to enter Zheng Wan's room searching for the USB. Zheng Wan had anticipated King Ju's scheme all along. Holding a fake USB drive, she learned from King Ju's words that the drive's contents were related to Seung-hee. Zheng Wan then asked her son where he had placed the USB drive. Yi Jin said she had put it in her bag, but after searching, Zheng Wan couldn't find it. Suddenly, Zheng Wan remembered the day she was carrying Zheng Wan's bag, and she was knocked down. Everything inside spilled out, yet while picking things up, she hadn't noticed the USB drive. Zheng Wan and Meking rushed back to the scene to search for it but found nothing. That day, Soo-hoo saw Zheng Wan's family portrait and froze in shock. He instantly recognized Zheng Wan's adoptive mother as the woman King Ju had killed years ago. Meanwhile, King Ju handed a USB drive to Ji-wan. The drive contained footage of Moon-ho arguing with Ji-wan's mother. Shortly after parting ways with Zheng Wan, Soo-hoo stormed off to confront King Ju, only to be spotted by Zheng Wan nearby. The two discussed how King Ju had caused Zheng Wan's adoptive mother's death years ago. Only then did Zheng Wan realize King Ju was the murderer of her foster mother, and Soo-hoo, as a witness, had chosen to help King Ju conceal the truth. Zheng Wan's last shred of guilt towards Soo-hoo vanished. She contacted Soo-hoo, asking him to arrange a meeting with his mother. At this moment, Zheng Wan only wanted to meet Seung-hee as soon as possible and then abandon Soo-hoo. The next day, Soo-hoo waited early at the agreed restaurant. Seung-hee was busy with a live stream at that moment. She had planned to meet him after finishing the broadcast. Unexpectedly, an electrical malfunction occurred during the stream. The accident injured Seung-hee's eye. Upon receiving news of his mother's injury, Soo-hoo rushed to the hospital immediately. Fortunately, Seung-hee only suffered a corneal injury. With a week of rest, she would recover. Zheng Wan later arrived at the hospital with a bouquet to visit Seung-hee. When greeting her, she deliberately altered her voice and introduced herself as Pearl. Later, Zheng Wan heard that Soo-hoo intended to find a caregiver for Seung-hee. She volunteered to be Seung-hee's caregiver. That day, with no one home, Zheng Wan planned to check Seung-hee's phone for secrets. Suddenly, a call came in. Zheng Wan handed the phone to Seung-hee. Then she pretended to close the door and leave, eavesdropping on Seung-hee's conversation. From their exchange, Zheng Wan heard Yoon-hee's name. To find the nurse assigned to Yoon-hee, Zheng Wan memorized the lock screen password while Soo-hoo unlocked Seung-hee's phone. Taking advantage of an empty room, Zheng Wan quickly opened Seung-hee's phone and jotted down the nurse's number. With things progressing smoothly, Zheng Wan told Seung-hee she was Soo-hoo's girlfriend, Pearl. Unaware Pearl was Zheng Wan, Seung-hee didn't object, appreciating Zheng Wan's care. She agreed to their relationship. Meanwhile, Zheng Wan had Meking pose as a renowned painter to trick King Ju into investing in artwork. Learning the painting was intended for Seung-hee's collection, King Ju resolved to seize it. She eagerly sought to trade with Meking, but the painting's exorbitant price prompted King Ju to target the company instead. She stole Seung-hee's company seal while the house was empty and embezzled funds in Seung-hee's name to purchase the painting, unaware it was merely Yi-jin's scribbles. After buying the painting, King Ju encountered Zheng Wan and assumed Seung-hee was still recovering her eyesight. To her surprise, Zheng Wan informed her Seung-hee had fully recovered and would soon return to the company. King Ju planned to sell the painting at a high price and use the proceeds to buy up company shares. To oust Seung-hee from her position as vice chairman, panicked, she rushed to her father, demanding they sell the painting immediately to recover the funds. However, after the bureau authenticated it, they discovered the painting was a fake. Upon returning to work, Seung-hee's first act was to expel Zheng Wan from the company. Zheng Wan bluntly stated he had no interest in her son and was only using him to get back at Seung-hee. This infuriated Seung-hee. The couple then urged their son to break up with Zheng Wan, but Soo-hoo firmly refused. Resigned, Seung-hee persuaded her son to date Zheng Wan for a year to observe. If they were still sincere then, she would approve their relationship. Seung-hee knew Zheng Wan didn't truly love Soo-hoo and wouldn't last a year. Surprisingly, Soo-hoo happily agreed to the arrangement. Seung-hee then instructed Secretary Zheng to contact the legal department to handle King Ju's embezzlement case. Wen-gu suggested fleeing abroad with his daughter, but King Ju insisted on finding the person who deceived her to reclaim the money. Yet Zheng Wan unexpectedly brought Meking to confront King Ju. Upon seeing Meking, King Ju immediately demanded her money, but when she realized the girl bore an uncanny resemblance to the chairman, she was stunned. Just then, Zheng Wan stepped in and confessed it was all his scheme. King Ju was arrested by the police. Unwilling to accept defeat, King Ju recalled giving Ji-won a video recording involving Moon-ho. She planned to have Ji-won use that footage to blackmail Moon-ho into freeing her. Ji-won revealed the woman in the video was his own mother. He refused to use the recording to save King Ju or aid Moon-ho. Watching her last hope vanish, King Ju completely broke down. She swore she would exact revenge. revenge. Soon after, King Ju was sentenced to 5 years and sent to prison. At the company, Ji-wan's assistant located the nursing home where Yoon-hee resided. The two hurried to the address. Secretary Young, who overheard their conversation, immediately informed Seung-hee. Seung-hee arranged for nurses to transfer Yoon-hee to another location. Meanwhile, Jae-won, who had received Ji-wan's call, also rushed to the nursing home. At that moment, the nurse helped the restless Yoon-hee into the car, but she forgot to close the door. Yoon-hee got out to pick up her doll. The nurse didn't notice and drove away. When Ji-won arrived at the nursing home, Yoon-hee was nowhere to be found. Only then did the nurse realize she had lost Yoon-hee. She turned back to search for her. Just then, Jae-won arrived and spotted Yoon-hee. Upon seeing Jae-won, Yoon-hee fainted. Meanwhile, the nurse handed Yoon-hee's necklace left behind in the car to Seung-hee. Seeing the photo, Seung-hee finally realized Yoon-hee truly had a daughter. That same day, Seung-hee happened to notice Jae-won wearing an identical necklace. She also overheard Jae-won telling Soo-hoo that the necklace was a token to find her birth mother. She suspected Jae-won was Yoon-hee's daughter. Seung-hee arranged for Mi-sun to bring Jae-won's comb and hair. She then took the chairman's hair for DNA testing. When the results came back, Seung-hee panicked. Jae-won was indeed the chairman's granddaughter. She confronted the chairman about Jae-won. Just after Seung-hee left, the chairman's hand, which had been motionless in his coma, suddenly moved. Meanwhile, Soo-hoo went looking for Jae-won but unexpectedly saw Ji-won embracing her. The two were discussing using him for revenge. This devastated Soo-hoo. Returning to his office, he vented his anger. He resolved he absolutely couldn't lose Jae-won. Soo-hoo went to the mall to pick out an engagement ring, planning to propose to Jae-won. Upon learning this, Seung-hee rushed over to stop him. Unexpectedly, she saw Jae-won walking with Yoon-hee. He seized the moment when Jae-won stepped away and pulled Yoon-hee aside. Jae-won, realizing Yoon-hee was missing, urgently contacted Ji-wan. Fortunately, Yoon-hee was found safely. Soo-hoo deduced from his mother's reaction that Yoon-hee was the chairman's biological daughter. The next day, he helped his mother abduct Yoon-hee, but Soo-hoo's original intention was to properly care for his aunt. To prevent Jae-won from further interfering with Yoon-hee, Seung-hee dispatched people to help Mi-sun snatch Jae-won's son. Jae-won informed Soo-hoo of his mother's actions. Soo-hoo then confronted his mother, demanding she return Yi-jin to Jae-won. Seeing Seung-hee's helpless expression, Soo-hoo declared he would fight to the end before leaving. He later approached Jae-won, proposing they marry to reclaim Yi-jin. However, having come to her senses, Jae-won arrives at the company the next day with an engagement ring. She returns the ring to Soo-hoo and proposes breaking up. Later, Jae-won finds Seung-hee and informs her of this news. Finally, she is able to bring Yi-jin back. That day, while the nanny feeds Yoon-hee fruit, she seizes the chance to run out of the room. Just as she is about to leave, she hears Seung-hee returning home. Yoon-hee had no choice but to hide in the chairman's room. Seung-hee, noticing Yoon-hee was missing, began frantically searching. She finally found Yoon-hee in the chairman's room. Unexpectedly, during their argument, the chairman regained consciousness. Though awake, the chairman couldn't speak. Seung-hee rushed the chairman to the hospital for examination. The doctor explained the patient had suffered brain damage, leading to partial memory loss. That day, Wang-gu accidentally overheard Seung-hee's secret about locking Yoon-hee away for 30 years. He urgently woke the chairman to reveal the truth. Upon learning this, the chairman became so overwhelmed she couldn't control herself. Seung-hee stormed into Yoon-hee's room and took her frustration out on her. Fortunately, Soo-hoo arrived just in time to stop his mother. Soon, the day of the chairman's medical examination arrived. Seung-hee entrusted Yoon-hee's care to Soo-hoo before leaving. Soo-hoo discovered Yoon-hee collapsed in the basement. He rushed her to the hospital for emergency treatment. But just as Soo-hoo informed his mother of this, Yoon-hee regained consciousness and seized the chance to flee. Learning of Yoon-hee's escape, Seung-hee hurried to search for her. Yoon-hee encountered the chairman during her escape. The chairman was shocked to see Yoon-hee. Due to her amnesia, Yoon-hee didn't recognize the chairman. Just then, Ji-won and Jae-won arrived. The two pushed the chairman toward the direction Yoon-hee had fled. But in the end, Seung-hee beat them to it and dragged Yoon-hee away. She locked Yoon-hee in the car. She then scolded Soo-hoo for taking Yoon-hee to the hospital. The president overheard their conversation as she chased after them. Only then did she realize Seung-hee had hidden her own biological daughter. Since Yoon-hee was being hidden at home, the nurse was no longer needed for the time being. Seung-hee arranged for the nurse to collect her pay with Secretary Jang. Just as the nurse left after receiving her money, she bumped into Jae-won. Thinking Jae-won was Yoon-hee's new caregiver, the nurse struck up a conversation. Jae-won seized the chance to get her phone number. She sought Ji-wan's counsel. Jae-won suspected Yoon-hee was her biological mother. To verify her thoughts, Jae-won asked Wang-gu to obtain the chairman's hair. So Wang-gu slipped into the chairman's room when no one was home and plucked a strand of her hair. But he later accidentally revealed this to Seung-hee. Seung-hee couldn't understand why Jung-won needed the chairman's hair. Just then, she overheard Jung-won planning to retrieve the paternity test. She followed Jung-won all the way to the staircase. As they struggled, the paternity test fell down the stairs. Jung-won was then accidentally pushed down the stairs. At the critical moment, Soo-hoo shielded her, breaking his own leg in the process. Soo-hoo was rushed to the hospital. Seung-hee blamed Jung-won for everything. Ji-won hurriedly pulled Jung-won away first. After returning home, Jung-won suddenly remembered she hadn't checked her paternity test results. She wanted to rush back to the company to look for them. Ji-won told her to rest and offered to find them himself. He arrived at the company and quickly located the paternity test report. Unbeknownst to her, Seung-hee had already instructed Secretary Young to swap the report. The result Jung-won saw, of course, showed no biological relationship. Meanwhile, Soo-hoo's first thought upon waking was to check if Jung-won was hurt. That day, Jung-won intended to visit Soo-hoo, but unexpectedly, she learned from their conversation that Yoon-hee was her biological mother. After hearing this, Jung-won silently left. She couldn't fathom that the person Seung-hee had tormented her entire life was her own mother. That both grandmother and Yoon-hee were under Seung-hee's control. She could only endure it for now. To rescue the chairman, Mi-king disguised herself as the chairman, intending to swap them out. Later, Ji-won secretly brought Mi-king into the chairman's room while no one was home. By the time Seung-hee arrived at the chairman's room, she found only Mi-king, impersonating the chairman, feigning sleep. Meanwhile, the chairman was already embracing Jung-won, weeping together. That day, Jung-won secretly infiltrated Seung-hee's office to copy documents related to the secret funds. Ji-won also targeted Moon-ho when his subordinate went to retrieve incriminating files from the safe. Ji-won seized the opportunity to snatch the briefcase. The next day, negative news about Moon-ho surfaced online. Upon learning Ji-won orchestrated it all, Moon-ho ordered his subordinates to destroy Ji-won by any means necessary. To clear his name, Moon-ho held a press conference, exposing Ji-won's prior conviction for causing Young-hoon's death by collision, claiming it was all Ji-won's frame-up and revenge. Moon-ho secretly followed Ji-won to understand why he was targeting him. Ji-won arrived at his mother's memorial altar. From Ji-won's muttered words, Moon-ho realized Ji-won was his son with Jin-soo. Moon-ho was overcome with grief, remembering Jin-soo's death and how he had framed Ji-won for imprisonment. He then went to Jin-soo's memorial altar to confess his sins. Driven by guilt, Moon-ho contacted Ji-won to prepare for turning himself in and atoning for his crime. That day, Jung-won spotted Secretary Jung from Seung-hee's office entering a pawn shop. She quietly followed and discovered the USB drive in Secretary Jung's hand. Returning home, she told Jung-won about it. The two surmised the USB contained incriminating footage of Seung-hee's crimes. Secretary Jung likely kept it to guard against Seung-hee. Jung-won then lured Secretary Jung to a fried chicken restaurant. Jung-won deliberately spilled a drink on Secretary Jung. While Secretary Jung went to the restroom, Jung-won swiftly retrieved the deposit slip from her bag and photographed it. Soon after, Ji-won had a friend forge a deposit slip and handed it to Jung-won. Jung-won used the slip to retrieve Secretary Jung's bag from storage. Inside, she found the incriminating video evidence of Seung-hee's crimes. To avoid alerting Secretary Jung, Jung-won took the video and returned the bag to its original spot. The next day, Seung-hee's video surfaced online. Seung-hee was utterly shocked upon seeing it. Secretary Jung arrived at the pawn shop only to discover the USB drive was missing. Only then did she realize Jung-won's true purpose from meeting her. Secretary Jung truthfully explained the entire situation to Seung-hee. Seung-hee was furious upon hearing it. She handed Secretary Jung a plane ticket, telling her to disappear from her sight. Yoon-hee, hidden in Seung-hee's home, finally regained her memory. Mi-king also pinpointed Yoon-hee's location. That day, Yoon-hee seized the moment when the nanny entered to deliver food and immediately fled. After regaining her memory, Yoon-hee learned the chairman was her mother. Her first act upon escaping was to find the chairman and rescue her. Little did she know, Seung-hee dragged her back. They then attempted to commit her to a mental hospital. However, upon exiting the vehicle, Yoon-hee discovered Jung-won waiting to greet her. Mother and daughter were finally reunited. It turned out Soo-hoo had secretly intervened behind his mother's back. Jung-won then brought Yoon-hee home. The chairwoman also met her biological daughter. Believing all matters settled, Seung-hee prepared to inherit the company. She locked Wang-gu in the office to prevent him from causing trouble. Yet, right during her inauguration ceremony, Mi-king, disguised as the chairwoman, suddenly appeared. Meanwhile, the real chairman was escorted in by Jung-won. Their identical appearances shocked everyone. The chairman declared the company would not be handed over to Seung-hee. Shares would instead be distributed to employees who protected the company. Upon hearing this, Seung-hee ordered security to throw them all out, but no one obeyed her. Suddenly, a confession video of Seung-hee hitting Yoon-hoon with her car appeared on the large screen. Everyone was stunned. Seung-hee tried to argue her case. It turned out Moon-ho had had been holding on to evidence of the hit and run all along. Now he intended to take Seung-hee down with him. Seung-hee was immediately taken away by the police. After Seung-hee's arrest, Moon-ho also turned himself in. Soo-hoo, heading abroad for treatment of his leg injury, came to bid his father farewell. Ji-won recalled Moon-ho's entrustment of Soo-hoo to him. He resolved to accompany Soo-hoo abroad to care for him. Just as the two prepared to board their flight, Jae-won arrived. They agreed to be together once Ji-won returned. Jae-won tearfully saw Ji-won off. Seung-hee was ultimately sentenced to 10 years. Unable to bear the blow, she fainted, seemingly mentally unstable. She was sent to work at a convent. Jae-won and the chairman visited her. The chairman brought Seung-hee's favorite foods. Unable to contain herself, Seung-hee ran away. Midway, she clutched the food the chairman brought and devoured it voraciously. Then she crouched on the ground and began to cry. A year later, Ji-won returned to Korea. He and Jae-won finally came together.